Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Cat's Track. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and sharing this with your friends. Today's episode is with our friend, Jeff Davison. Jeff was born and raised in Calgary and actually in the ward that he represents. He's also a father of 3 great young children. Besides his loved ones, Jeff is most passionate about bringing people together, finding common ground, and building policies and programs that work for everyone. Friends, you'll find his full bio attached. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I feel like with that, I hope people aren't paying to subscribe to this. They may ask for a refund after today.
Jeff, it's free.
They still may come back and say, can I please get the $3 back?
Want the money.
Yeah. We'll have fun today. Don't worry.
Oh, I believe that. Yes. Are you ready for the questions I sent you?
Let's do it. Absolutely.
Awesome. I'm very curious to hear what's your greatest challenge in the last few months.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think there's any greater challenge than going through a global pandemic right now, right? I mean, I think as much as the job in itself being an elected official, there's always challenges with things like social media and perceptions in the community and issues. But all of that has really taken a sidebar to what's going on globally right now. I think, right now Calgary is we're in a bit of that trifecta area where we're one of the hardest hit jurisdictions globally. And I don't say that just because I want people to think, oh, whoa, Calgary, oh my goodness, it's so hard on us. It really is true, because I think, when you think about the context of, not just a global pandemic, not just the economic crash, but you think about things in terms of just the throttling back of the energy industry here in the province and that effect it's had on Calgary in particular. That's a really dangerous trifecta that we've got going on. And so, as much as COVID is the challenge, I think, it's right now, obviously the health and well-being of our citizens continue to be top of mind, but it's also that balance of trying to create an economic survival part of this. And so, we've seen so many of those small businesses out there struggling over this time that it's a challenge. And I think the hardest challenge for us, whether it's locally or provincially or federally, is really trying to balance that sort of economic recovery with, the things going on related to health concerns out there.
Can we stay on this topic for 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Lately, in the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of talk about, how many of our friends that have small and medium businesses, how they've been hurting, which is obvious and very sad to watch.
Yeah.
Some of the comments that have been coming out through media, you've probably seen them, was the comments about how is it we can keep Walmart open, but we can't keep the small businesses on 17th open that are also selling clothing, whatever else, whatever other goods. What's your opinion of that?
Well, it's a huge challenge right now. I mean, and you go back to what was about a week and a half ago, Walmart posted record profits, right? They were up 50% over the year over year. It's incredibly challenging, because I think as much as you have to think about it in the context of what those small businesses are. If you're competing with a small drugstore to the Walmarts of the world, I mean, the buying power that a company like Walmart has and the ability to operate at such a low cost it's incredible in terms of what they're doing. The small business owner doesn't have that. They're really trying to find out what's the best location for me. Location can come with higher property tax associated with it, higher rents associated with it. Certainly in the case of 17th Avenue, when we've had lots of shutdowns over the past couple of years in terms of, fixing a lot of the underlying groundworks that we've had to do, it's created additional challenges for a lot of those businesses. And so, the biggest thing we're trying to do as a city right now is just encourage buy local. Think about where it is that you're going. Don't just think about, the convenience you have in the immediate. The Amazon delivery is always ideal. And certainly at a time when we have a pandemic going on and, people don't necessarily want to go out in public, that's really easy. But there's ways to start looking at some of these small businesses differently. Call around to some of these businesses, ask the question, do you do curbside pickup? Do you have contactless exchange of goods? Those types of things. And you'll find a lot of those businesses do, because I think the businesses that are really iterating right now and striving to survive are the ones that are going to make it. And so as much as you can, think about, the business in your own home area, right? Like think about the strip malls in your area. Can you support them by, doing takeout for dinner tonight? Can you support them by, going to the small grocer versus going to one of the large scale Walmarts of the world, those types of things. But it all comes down to, the small guy just doesn't have the infrastructure in place that the Walmarts do of the world.
It saddens my heart to watch our friends go through this.
Yeah, no, it truly is, because I mean, if you think about it, in our city alone, we think about what are those big businesses all the time and who's employing the most amount of people. Well, it is small business. Small business is the largest employer in our city. And so when we think about what's the best way to keep people employed and contributing to the system, it is through small business.
I agree. Thank you for that, Jeff.
Yeah.
What about your top 3 things that you'd like to share with the audience today?
Top 3 things, eh? Well, I mean, I think I go back to the idea of just what we talked about. What are the big challenges out there? And certainly, the challenge with COVID-19, our business survival rate, the health and well-being of just citizens in general, and certainly the tools that we have as a city. So whether that's taxation or other things, we've got to think about those things in a larger perspective. Because number one, I would say, I'm very focused on economic recovery in our city and doing what we need to do in order to keep people surviving in small business, keep attracting talent to our city, which attracts large companies to our city. We have to think about it in that context, but we also have to think about how do we start to tell the story of Calgary differently. We have to start thinking about how do we compete differently as a city, when arguably everybody else in recovery mode coming out of COVID-19 is going to competing harder, better, faster. So we have to start thinking of those things too. And I mean, right now, Calgary, whether we like it or not, whether we believe it or not, we do have some of the lowest business corporate taxes available out there. And so we've got to start telling that story differently. We are the home to about 118 headquarters, which is more headquarters per capita than any other Canadian city. So it's a place people want to be, but we have to start thinking about talent differently and how we incubate that talent if we're going to grow in terms of different sectors. So attracting, whether it's the fintechs of the world, whether it's just technology as a sector, whether it's technology integrated into things like energy, whether we add to our energy portfolio and become all things energy as a city. We're no longer just going to be an oil and gas city, but we can own the energy sector again. We just have to think differently through that. It's those types of things that I think, we have to start thinking about the narrative of our city. I mean, one of the biggest detriments I find in our city is that we talk so terribly about ourselves as a city that it started to resonate globally. Calgary used to be the place you came for opportunity, and now we're seeing that sort of evacuate. So we've got to get that back, number one. And part of that is going to be, how do we do that as a community, and how do we do that as ourselves? I think, we have to start supporting community differently here and starting to think through the things that we value as a city and what type of city are we building. I always say that, I'm not here just for the here and now. I'm here to build this city forward for the next generation. I want my kids to grow up in a city that has great opportunity for them, as well as everybody else's kids. I'm born and raised in this city. I care tremendously about the success of this city. To the point where we're now seeing, young talent leave our city to have to go and find opportunity elsewhere. That saddens me a lot. And, again, I go back to Calgary's the place you used to come for opportunity. It didn't matter if it's from, Southeast Asia or the Middle East or Saskatchewan. This is a place you came for opportunity. That was also a little bit of a joke. I like to throw Saskatchewan in there just to make people laugh, because it seems like everyone's from Saskatchewan.
Everyone is.
But that's the point, right? It's a little bit about, creating the atmosphere and creating the mood here again that people want to be a part of. Because I think Calgary is prime, for, an incredible opportunity of recovery. I think, for as hard as it might be in, going into COVID-19 for a city like Calgary, I think Calgary has probably more opportunities coming out of this than any other jurisdiction. And we just have to capitalize on them. So I would think about those things. And then I guess, further to that point, I would just say, look, Calgary's been known as many things over the years. We've been a stampede town, a cow town, an oil town. We're all of those things. But more than anything, we're a town of resiliency. And I think, I tell people all the time, there's no more important time in our history to remember that than now.
I agree with you. Do you know Dr. Brad Thompson?
I'm afraid to say no, because I hate when people are like, what do you mean he doesn't know me? I've met you 4 times. So I'm just going to be like, sure. Maybe you could remind your listeners as to who that is.
Oh, well, I just finished a Cats track with him, and he is an expert at infectious diseases. And he's got a wide variety of experience, but very successful scientist who has a very interesting track that you might want to hear. And if you would like an introduction, I'm happy to make it. Let me know.
Sure, that'd be great. And I will just say, oh yeah, Dr. Thompson, so that there's no like, what do you mean? No, but yeah, yes. You know what? A reintroduction or introduction would be great.
Happy to do it. Happy to do it. And I'll send you the track at the same time.
Sounds wonderful. That's wonderful.
How about in closing with any success, good news stories, legacy stories, anything you want to share?
Success? Yeah, look, I mean, I think the city's shifting. I mean, I honestly believe that, you know, as much as we're going through some really hard times right now, you know, my plan right now is to position Calgary for a city of 2 million people. I think, you know, when you think about the net migration that Calgary has possible, the amount of people that will need an economic recovery, I mean, just think about this. There's 140,000 people we could put back downtown to work. That's how much room there is right now. And so that's not going to just come through, you know, the current situation we're in. That's going to mean that we need to move companies here, and that's going to come with people. And so I really think it's a plan to, you know, continue to be that fourth most livable city in the world. You know, I think part of our issue right now is, you know, every time we start talking about we're one of those top cities, you know, people say, well, it doesn't feel like it. And I think that's part of the challenge going forward, is to change the mood of Calgarians and, you know, get back to being that place that we've always desired for ourselves, and not be afraid to set our stake in the world. You know, I go back into the idea of, you know, even the new event center, which was a huge win for me in terms of what it means. I think a lot of people would say, well, that was just a hockey deal and it's everything but a hockey deal. You know, the hockey deal was just one partner to get a facility going. This is a facility that I hope to be a catalyst in an area that is currently home to the world's most unimpressive parking lots.
Yeah.
But I think if we're going to start looking at economic recovery and you know, creating you know, some economic diversification here in Calgary, you have to build the districts that people want to be able to live, work, and play in. And more than anything right now, one of our biggest challenges is how do we get more people living downtown? And so you've got to create great, you know, community hubs, great central focal points, you know, catalysts for people to want to be in an area. And traditionally, we've had a very corporate downtown. I mean, we talked earlier, it's kind of, you know, between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. it's busy, but after that, it's you know, there's small pockets of activity downtown, but there's not a lot of activity downtown. And when I think about the great assets that we've put together as a city in terms of everything, you know, the Rivers District encompasses all the way down to Chinatown, thinking about, you know, Victoria Park and the revitalization of that area, continuing to build on what we're doing in the East Village. You know, really, this is our position to try and figure out how do all those pieces play together. So yeah, and that I think really is, you know, a legacy for Calgarians. I think, you know, to me, it's not about the structures you build or the things you do. It's about the place you make. And, you know, for my kids, it's really about, you know, the idea of, will this be a city for them to have a great place to make a living and a great place to make a life? And that's really one of the mottos we have at the city. So,
and to be proud of helping the ones that are more vulnerable.
Yeah, and you know, that's just the thing. I mean, I think, you know, you have to start thinking of things in the context of how do we take care of everybody, right? Because it's when people contribute in their city, you know, you find you have a better position in the city. And so looking at things, you know, one of my big visions right now is to look at how do we put together community venture funding? How do we think through the challenges that we're having out there right now in terms of there's only so many tax dollars to go around, but the causes keep, you know, mounting up. How do we start thinking about funding these things differently with the ability to do better in our community? And that's I think the one thing that I would say is incredibly unique to Calgary is that you have people that care deeply about this place. They care deeply about the city they want to build and contribute to. And, you know, if you ever question that, you know, a good place I always send people to is go to the Alberta Children's Hospital and walk down that first hallway, and you see all the names of companies and donors and people that have donated millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, not just to that facility, but all over our city. People care about our city. And I think, you know, we've got to start thinking about how we get back to that, because over the years, I think, you know, we've forgotten that it's okay to take philanthropic money and say thank you. And it's okay to build great things for our city. But more importantly, it's one of the catalysts that we have that makes us unique to really create a functional program to take care of everyone.
I agree with you. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's awesome. Keep up the good work in City Hall, and maybe we can all encourage you to look at a bigger role next year.
Well, we're certainly thinking about it, but thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for joining us on Cats Track.